Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar where we'll be dissecting a case study on Bridgemont Middle School's journey to data-driven student support. Over the past 3 years, Bridgemont Middle stakeholders have expressed concerns in regard to some noticeable trends. A sharp decrease from 65% to 48% of students on grade level in math, as well as a rise in absenteeism among students. As a solution to these issues, school principal Dr. Harper selected and implemented an AI powered data analysis program called BrightLearn, which would flag at risk students and recommend interventions. 9 months later, the implementation of BrightLearn has yielded mixed results. Let's start with what went well in this implementation process. First and foremost, Dr. Harper listened to teacher, parent, and school board concerns and then sought a solution. This was true at the beginning of the process when the school saw issues in math performance and absenteeism, as well as later when stakeholders had concerns about the use of AI in school. And Dr. Harper opened a community forum to address those concerns. Dr. Harper also had the foresight to break the implementation process into stages, starting with training and setup, then moving into monitoring, and then finally communicating with families. Dr. Harper also obviously had students' best interests in mind when trying to find a way to effectively help students be at school and perform better in math. And it's also commendable that Dr. Harper focused on finding a solution that would be built on a foundation of student data. Now let's look at what could have been better in Dr. Harper's implementation. First, there was not any trusting collaboration in the solution seeking process. By this, I mean that Dr. Harper did not include others in the process of coming up with solutions for the issues they were seeing. Instead, she alone found the solution and implemented it. Trust is an essential part of collaborating, and the situation shows that neither teachers nor parents were trusted to offer their ideas and expertise. As a result, parents feel a lack of trust in the school, especially since the communication they received about their child's progress was generated through AI and pretty impersonal. Another issue was a lack of transparency in the co learning process. Many teachers felt overwhelmed by the new program, and this is perhaps because there were not enough training opportunities in how to use the program effectively, and they weren't part of the process of choosing the program to begin with. And a final major issue is that there seems to be inaccuracies in the data generated by the AI program itself. If we look closer at the data, we can see some of these issues. For example, here, student 12087 and 12178 have both been flagged as medium risk. However, student 12203 has a very similar data profile, yet they are marked as low risk. We also see this with student 12034, who is marked as high risk, while student 12215 is only medium risk. There seems to be inconsistency with the AI's flagging system, or it's at least unclear what criteria the AI is actually utilizing to determine what level of risk each student is. The AI also seems to be inconsistent with the interventions it suggests. Here we have two high risk students with similar data profiles, and yet they have two different interventions suggested. Again, what criteria is the AI using to make these suggestions? What determines that one student should receive counseling but the other receive tutoring? Overall, the AI has essentially recommended a completely different intervention for each individual student, which is just going to be very hard to implement effectively. So, here are my recommendations for what Dr. Harper could have done differently based on information from the Connected Teacher Chapter 4, Building a Collaborative Culture. First, stakeholders should be involved from the start. This includes teachers and parents. When problems arise that need to be addressed, it's important that school leaders like Dr. Harper work with the school community to create a shared vision for how the problem will be addressed. Nussbaum Beach writes that shared visions should not be done to us, but created collectively and revisited regularly. A key component of effective collaboration like this is having trusting relationships in place. By involving parents and teachers, Dr. Harper would be showing that she trusts in their expertise and ideas. In turn, parents and teachers trust in Dr. Harper's leadership and the solution that is developed. Second, Dr. Harper should approach the co learning process with intention and attention. Dr. Harper should be intentional in collaboration sessions by making sure teachers are aware of the stages of collaboration and the emotions that can occur throughout the process. When big emotions arise, this is when Dr. Harper needs to give attention to and acknowledge her staff's needs. Nussbaum Beach explains that change like this is hard for teachers and is equivalent to a grieving process. Teachers must give up the familiar and adjust while also learning something brand new. She writes on page 13 that grieving can trigger a host of unfamiliar and confusing emotions. This is why it's understandable that many teachers end up feeling overwhelmed and discouraged with the program and don't feel comfortable learning in the open for fear that everyone else is ahead of them and already gets it. And finally, with a big change like this one, Dr. Harper should start small and fine tune before rolling out the full program to the whole school. Originally, teachers were trained in how to use the Bright Learn dashboard within the first 3 months of implementation. But this sounds like teachers were shown what the program looks like on their screen, but not what it looks like in their classroom. There are many unanswered questions still. When will the recommended interventions happen and how often? Who is responsible for running these interventions? What will the interventions entail? How will data be collected and progress be monitored? As this quote from page 9 suggests, training sessions should give teachers plenty of time to go into the necessary depth needed so that teachers feel confident in the program. When ready to begin using the program with students, perhaps Dr. Harper should have started with just one group of students, such as just students with high percentages of absenteeism. That offers a more manageable starting point. From there, they would have had a smaller, more manageable amount of data to work with, which leads to another point that before beginning any intervention with students, staff should have taken time to evaluate the AI generated recommendations. By starting small, staff could look at the recommendations and determine if they seem valid and doable. Then the school can reach out personally to families about what's going on, letting them know that they will receive a report from the AI program on their child's interventions, which would be a lot more accurate and then also better received. Once all these kinks are worked out, then the program can be rolled out further. Ultimately, this case study at Bridgemont Middle shows that AI can be a really powerful tool in schools. However, it is still necessary to have a strong culture of collaboration, which ensures that new technology tools are implemented effectively and confidently and accurately. This wraps up our webinar for today. Thanks so much for joining us.